Yeah, Yvonne, one of the things I'm really excited about having you there for um, is the depth of expertise that you have in working with public sector and working with agencies, and specifically those that are really on the cutting edge of development of disruptive technology for infrastructure, for the public good, right? And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what is available from the federal government when it comes to supporting the development of new technology, and especially water related technology. And we really try to, bring all of that. And that's one of the benefits of being here in DC, is we can try to capture that wide array of agencies. So in fact, last time I saw you was here in DC for Tech Connect, when you were judging some of the really top technologies out there. Tell us a little bit more about working in infrastructure and working with public funding for disruptive technology.
Very good. Very good space. Um, Understanding the public sector, the governmental sector, what have you. They basically have the funding that they have received from your taxes, your payments into the government from whatever there is from just the general population. And they have to now take that monies and give that monies back out. So that means every dollar in has to be dollars coming back out, minus what it takes them to operate those agencies. With that, that says that they will, in real, like National Renewable Energies Laboratory, they literally, for whatever you have, you will get some, you apply to that, you will get some monies. And what it is understanding they got such a very deep, um, all of them, CIBR, Nassau, DOD, all of them have very deep um, levels as far as what they give and what you have to do to apply. That's the key. A lot of people thinking that I can just simply be introduced to one of these people or what have you, be introduced to someone. And 9 times out of 10, when you go to, you have to go where these people go. You have to go to, they have every single day of the year is something going on somewhere throughout the country in relation to one of these different government entities. And what they do is they don't go alone and just do something. They generally have something in collaboration, with other government agencies, with other private sector agencies, with other nonprofit agencies. Space Foundation is one of them. It is a Space Foundation is simply a nonprofit organization. That's what they are. They are not a government entity. They're not a private foundation. They are a nonprofit organization. And so they will host many of these things and bring all these names in. Find out what these people do. Look at their websites, and those government websites, I can tell you this, they do tell you exactly what they fund, and they give you the exact, what you need to do in order to get it. And then find out where they're going to be. Go there, just like when you were there in DC, when you and I had met and you were at that Tech Connect there. That was a place to learn, to meet people. People were all over the place, they were everywhere. Now you're, who generally goes to these different conferences? That's going to be your higher up people, the directors, the VPs, the senior VPs, the decision makers. They're the ones that get to go to the conference. Every now and again, an administrator gets to go to a conference, and really, they're kind of there just to help, help along. But the ones who are speaking, the ones who you're actually interacting and talking with the people, these are going to be your decision makers. And it's very good to go there and have a list of questions to ask. How do I, what can I do? What makes sense? Or I'm completing, one of your applications. I'm not sure about these particular type of questions that you're asking about, or this information that you need. How can I get it? Who can I, who else can I talk to? They will point you in the right directions. Okay, but you're not going to, do not call, don't waste your time dialing that 1-800 number or sending something in at info.gov.com. I have no idea what abyss that is going into, and I have no idea who's on the other end of that 1-800 number that you're going to be calling. you're going to have to go to the places where these people go. That's where, because they see it like this. If you have a true interest in trying to promote your craft or your service or your product, then you're going to spend money and take the time to go to these different conferences that have been put together on your behalf. I mean, that you just like what you're doing here with the water pitch. What better place to go and find out about the water industry? Who's in the water industry? What can I do? How can I get through, my technology into the water industry? But you put all this together, then I don't go there, but I want to make a phone call and ask someone to help fund me. It's like, well, why weren't you here? We had 20 funders, who could have potentially funded you. We had 20 people who could talk to you about those particular agencies and what those agencies do, and you don't even show up. Nine times out of 10, you may not even get spoken to because they feel, well, if I have laid this all, if I have, this is, for lack of a better way, this is the table I have prepared for you, and you don't come to the table, then you can't complain if you don't eat.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's so important to actually show up. People are seeing the stuff we're putting out there about WaterPitch, and they'll message me and say, I created this incredible technology. I'm not going to come to your event, but let me send you everything I know, everything about your technology. And let's set up a call for us to talk about it. It's like, I'm not going to sit and talk about it. If you want to come. If you want to advance your technology in your company, come to the event. We are doing a lot of work to bring the right people, amazing people like Yvonne and others, to have them there accessible to you. Right. This is not one of the big tech conferences with little startups on the side, right? The little innovation corner, in the expo room, and you have no time on the stage. That that it really have that opportunity, and you got to show up and make the most of it. And then on the other hand, we run into some of the startups that are kind of the darlings of the the higher end accelerators. They know the right people, they went to the right schools, they oh, I don't pay to pitch, I get invited all the time because they've got some, there was some startup that has become one of those darlings. But there's a lot of people who just didn't go to those schools, don't have those connections, and this is where you create those opportunities for yourself, right?
Can I chime in on that, the darlings and how they become the darlings? They become the darlings because they show up. They do the hard work. Those people who are on stage, trust me, they didn't just show up at the conference and said, "Oh, okay, you're going to pitch next." No, these people have been at it. They have done a lot, and they have shown themselves worthy, and that's how they can get on that stage because they're there. They're talking to everybody. They're talking about everything. And what's most important is this: they have shown themselves to be teachable. You have to be teachable and counselable. I have to be able to counsel you. A venture capitalist, an investor has to be able to counsel you on what you are doing and how to do it. Because you can trust me, these people, if I'm going to put a 1 million, 2 million, 20 million into yours, I must have done something right in order to have that excess of capital to give to you, and then turn around and give the same thing to somebody else, and somebody else is somebody else. So therefore, I may not know it all, but I know something. And if you're not willing to learn those lessons, from them and do the work, we all want manifestation, but there's the work of manifestation that has to be done first. You have to put the work in, and then you see the result. You have to plant the seed. You got to water that seed. You got to nurture it. You've got to, get the weeds out. You have got to have those touch points. You're not going to do all of this on a Zoom meeting. You're not going to do, all of this on a phone call. Sending your deck around the world is not going to get it. You have got to go and talk to the people and go where they go and do the things. And if they say, fine, you know what? Hey, I'm going to be over here at this place. It's in Phoenix or I'm going to be in Tucson, or I'm going to be, in some little small town, Sandy Springs, Georgia, some little town like that. Go there, meet with them, go to those events that they're going to. And that's where the magic begins to happen for you. That's how you become the darling of those different things. They'll be like, wow, I saw you at the last one. Oh, yeah, I remember you at the other one. I just came back from Austin, a Tech Connect. And yes, I saw people that I had saw last year in DC. And I remembered them and they remembered me. And these are people who are still trying to get there. Now I'm going to listen because why? You're still putting in yourself. And when you're showing your value because of what you're willing to put into yourself, that's where your value begins. Your value does not begin when an investor puts some money into your project. Your value begins when you put some money into your project. That's where it begins. It ends when where the investor begins to put, it does not begin there.
Yeah, yeah. And the ones that come back, and we get a lot of people who come back, time after time, and each time they meet another person at the same organization, they get recommended for, a high-end opportunity to speak in front of the top water utilities in the Northeast, for example. That comes from showing up over and over and being able to show that you're making progress. It's not just, well, they said no to me, I'm going to go home and sulk.
Exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
now we were talking about with the federal agencies, um, a lot of people are like, oh, you should go talk to, you're doing water, you should talk to EPA, right? Now, of all the federal agencies, EPA's kind of got the smallest piece of the pie. You work with agencies like Department of Defense, like NASA, and not just the you mentioned the SBIR, the Small Business Innovation Grant, or SBIR grants, which a lot of people think of, that's they only get like 10% of them get funded, right?
Right.
It's not a huge win rate. But then you have these high-end challenges, or especially people doing really cutting edge stuff, or perhaps even stuff that's more an immediate need that they're going to want to get done more quickly. Tell us how those types of federal challenges work, and how can someone really get into that if they do have something that might be a good fit?
Okay. SBIR and STTR, those are organizations. Think of them the same way you would an accelerator incubator. People want to go there and think, oh, I'm going to get this money from them. Yes, they do have money at the end of you going through that accelerator incubator period, which is what they're designed to do. So those agencies, and they're all over the country, and they generally are hosted, by a educational institution, in an area. So you can look them up online and see what educational institution is closest to you. You can go to their programs. They're relatively, inexpensive, but what they do is what the payoff is very high because they also work with other agencies that are in the area.
So this is the accelerators are designed to
This
prepare
is
to succeed in
exact.
SBIR, rather than people just going to the SBIR site for an agency and say, oh, you're doing something on floods. I have technology for floods. I'm just going to go straight to doing all this paperwork to do an application that I'm not ready for.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. You need to go to the SBIRs or to the STTR and go to either one of them or both of them, depending on what your technology is you're trying to do, and take their class. They may have, it might be a 5 weeks, 6 weeks, but what it will do is it will prepare you absolutely for getting their grants and for getting other government grants. And because remember, now they're kind of like the head, think of them as the head in agency. That's the how you get in, because now what you will have is you will now have the access to all the others. And not only will you simply don't want just access, but you want to know what to do when you get there. You want to know where to sit. You want to know what, how to speak, who to speak to, where to go, what to say when you are actually meeting these people, where they are. So that's what their purpose is. That's the function rather of the SBIR and the STTR. And yes, they do give, some small grants, some small things, just to kind of help you as you're going through, those different processes. But that's not the end all be all. That is to prepare you for where you're from where you need to get to.
And particularly some of the ones that the judging competitions that you were part of last summer, things like NASA with new technologies for, how do we refine the satellite imagery to actually be able to do something with it when it comes to disaster preparation, weather, a lot of this water related stuff. Again, not just about water and wastewater utilities, or water in many, many areas that impacts, our well-being and emergency management, hurricanes and whatnot, our economy, our national security. So, what are some of the things that you're seeing that are water related in those other agencies?
In those other agencies and NASA and with the Department of Defense, water is so critical because why? We're 70% of our bodies is water. And so therefore, yes, it is very critical to human life and the propagation of life. So both of them are very much entrenched in water. And for really, truth be told, anything and everything having to do with water and the purification of water and bringing water into the desert, bringing water into rural areas, clean water, climate change, how that affects all the water, all those things, NASA and the Department of Defense, you think of this in terms of they need this to not only to operate their equipment and machinery, but they have to protect our waters and our waterways, such that because if you want to really, the fastest way, believe it or not, to affect a society is through water, through the water table, poison into the water table, because what does it do? It'll affect you if you drink it. And also it affects the air quality because water evaporates. So now that same toxin that may be in the water can get evaporated. And so now we breathe it in. So therefore they're going to get you one way or another. So yes, so with that being said, the innovations that the water founders, may have would be very instrumental in helping with the Department of Defense to defend our water technologies. NASA is going to be is very much intrinsic in water because why? That's what we look for first. When we go out and we explore, everyone thinks, oh, we're searching for, ET, extraterrestrials, whatever. No, we look for water. Okay, that's what we're looking for because it's like, ET can be there or ET may not be there. If they got water, that becomes a planet that we want to actually go to because that's going to be the first thing. You think about it, you have never traveled in a car, you've never traveled on a plane, you've never even just walked down the street, and what's the first thing you do when you get to some place? Oh, can I get a cup of water? That's the first thing you do. So
And
that
where's the bathroom?
right, and where the bathrooms, exactly. And so therefore, when you think about it like that, NASA, anything and everything is having to do with water. They want to know, they want to help with that. And also, here's where the homework gets really nice, okay? Even those people who do have a water innovation project of their own, look on the NASA Tech website. That's exactly where it's at. NASA Tech, NASA, transfertech.com. That's it. It's real simple. They don't make it complicated as people might think. And so therefore, in that tech transfer, you probably got over 90,000 plus technologies that can be transferred from NASA that have already been approved, that you can license that technology, integrate it into what you are doing, make it a part of it. Now, why is that important? Why would she be saying that when I just went in my basement and I came up with this great idea, how I want to do that? I don't want to do somebody else's technology. I'll tell you this. They've already approved it. Okay. And they're just looking for somebody to take it and commercialize it. So if you can match that with what you're doing, well, guess what? You're a lot further down the road of you're already in. You see, because in order to license technology, who are you going to talk to from NASA? You're going to talk to NASA. You're going to talk directly to the department, directly to the people. I want to license this. Now you're in. Come on, people. This is not rocket science. We're not
This
asking.
is, yeah, so overlooked, small business tech transfer, STTR, that, gosh, I mean, that's where we got started with our very first water startup matching extravaganza was in Cincinnati for the EPA, because that's where their big labs are for all the water and environmental work. And so anything that they do in order to, test new potential contaminant or emerging contaminants and set different standards and whatnot, if in the process they create something new, they're not allowed to commercialize that. And that is true for the labs for NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric. That's true for DOD. That's true for energy. That's true for, NASA. It's true for any of them. So they have these technologies that are available. And so if you are someone who is good in business, and can, or have access to potential markets for those things. I mean, how many things from NASA have, from Tang to miniaturization to what have you, have become major breakthroughs in the commercial market, because exactly phones, so much of that it came from that. Yeah, you have, yes.
Zoom. The Zoom is what has come from that. Zoom, what we're talking on right now. The telephone, that came from that. Wi-Fi, wireless connection, connectivity. Here we are, we're able to talk across the miles,
Yeah.
cameras, everything. So it's like people are sitting here trying to, blow smoke out of their head and trying to figure out, I'm gonna beat my head against the wall to get somebody, when this stuff is free. Because you're absolutely right. They cannot commercialize it. They look to industry. That's why they have so many symposiums. They have so many conferences. And they're like, where are the people? And what happens is a lot of times we come to those conferences in the wrong manner. We come there with the I, me, self attitude, and I, me, self. I want to get this funded. I have this. I did this. This is me, me, me. It's mine. I've been thinking about this, and not looking at, we got tried, tested, proven. It's got everything you need. It's been incubated. It's ready to go. Please, somebody just come here, grab this and commercialize it, take it out to the market. And most of it's already has a definitive market.
Yeah, yeah. And so many of the startup founders that are really, have a great deal of success are the ones that have actually worked in the industry. So they know how things are used. They know what's not working now. They can see a new technology and say, wait, if we had that, here's what we can do. When we access publicly accessible models and databases and things that, you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. And so many of our startups, they have taken their technology and applied it to in oceans. They've applied it in health. We had Nasoni. Steve from Nasoni does a faucet that can be used by people who are mobility impaired, and that goes into NIH funding. We've had people, just the funding opportunities. We've got people who are doing like modular water treatment for emergency response, and that's getting incorporated into FEMA. That's getting incorporated into a whole bunch of different agencies that are in the emergency response space. So there's a lot of ways to think about that. I want to ask before we go, you have, right, we've had a couple of astronauts that went on a 3-hour tour, so to speak. They went on a 2-week trip up to the space station and kind of had to hang out there for a few months. I think it was 8-9 months or so. And
They'll come back in February, I think.
yes. Knock wood. One of the things that you've been involved with, if I'm not mistaken, you do a lot of work on things like infrastructure for space. Tell us about that.
Yes, we have to build it, okay, so that we can come, so that the people can come there. We have to build everything. And when you think about going there, it's really, it's not as simple, it's not as easy as you taking a trip going from DC to New York. And so what you would pack, where you would stay, that's pretty well already set up. So if you wanted to take a trip and go to the moon, well, where are you going to stay? What you going to eat? Where's the water? You know, all those things. Where's the sunlight? You know, where's the lighting? You know, all these different things. And so therefore, we have to replicate. If we just think about it in the most simplest form, we literally have to replicate everything we have on Earth, on the moon, or anywhere. If we go to Saturn, anywhere we go, we have to replicate that same type of environment, the air, the water, the food. You know, so right now, those very things, people who are in those industries are being taxed upon, are being called upon to, come and develop things for NASA, develop some of that technology that's already been thought about, and to bring in new technologies that they may have, into those areas. Those are the judging contests that you see, us going, where we bring people in, because these are people who have reached in and say, fine, I will take this, I will refine this so that it can be utilized and it can be commercialized. One of the things that we do as VCs especially, and that is when someone comes to us, if they come to us with some type of water technology or something that they want to develop, we are going to look at it, just as what you said, that technology with FEMA, where we're going to look at that technology from, what all can this be used for? We don't want to invest in a technology that has what we call a single source provider, meaning FEMA might be your only client, or NASA would be your only client, or DoD would be your only client. We want to also look at, what other things on Earth can this be, attributed to. And like the one piece that you said for that faucet, where can be utilized for people, who are mobily, have mobile handicaps or mobile, inabilities, what have you. Well, guess what? When we get to the moon or when we get to other places, we've got small spaces where, we haven't got to the point where we can build these nice big enterprises and starships. Okay. We got little small cramped spaces. So we need something, that same thing there as that would be used here. So you want to think outside of the box and say, what all the different streams. And when you have something that has applications where you have thought about, yes, here are applications that one of the agencies, the agency governments, the space government, the Department of Defense can use these same, and then this can also be used here on Earth. Now you're talking. Now you're listening. Now you're getting the investor's attention, because he knows this. Wow, NASA or the Department of Defense is building all the other componentry that goes with it. You could be selling your product at the same time.
Yeah, I'd love to wrap with the story that you told me before of that yes, we go out to the moon and we go to DoD and all these big applications, but there's also that understanding of how to apply this at the community level here on Earth, and your own background of seeing in a community that was underserved, and what a difference it made to have the infrastructure coming into that community. Would you mind sharing that story?
Oh, you talking about where I grew up there in Michigan?
Yeah.
Well, I really can't say that was, I thought about it years later, even since I spoke to you. And you really can't say it was an underserved community. It was probably a well-served community. We had a nuclear power plant in our community, so we weren't exactly underserved. And you had blueberry farms, the smaller ones were like the 5 and 10 acre, and the 20 and the 200 acres, 2,000 acre farms. So, it was well served, but it was just the fact that it was a small rural community. And, one of our greatest attributes is the fact that that community, Covert, Michigan, was there in southwestern Michigan, was the only town in the United States that all had always been integrated. We had never been segregated from its inception, till today. And we're in the Smithsonian Institute Museum for that reason. So it still is. It was a great place to grow up, and it still is. But places like that Nassau was very heavily. They came there because why? Because of the differentiation between that, and everybody wanted to learn. And that's why, it's one of the things that I do with my T-minus space development. I take, a lot of students, to the different space centers around the country once a year, generally in November, and to show them, what's out there and what's beyond, so that they begin to look beyond where they are and they begin to dream these dreams, because those dreams come into reality. And what happens is this: a lot of things were things that someone else already dreamt of, just did not, was not, the technology wasn't there, in order for us to be able to do it or what have you. But they're hoping that those future generations can actually do this. That's why, I'm coming out with a book in the springtime of next year, my 100-year plan. And with that, actually, it's more of a workbook for people to actually fill it. It's a fillable workbook. You fill it in. What is your 100-year plan? That's your legacy. What are your big dreams? Things that may not be able to do today, that we can do later. But if you don't put these down, no one has that technology or that ideology to be able to take it and turn it into a reality. So these are the types of things that it propagates you to do when you're, in sometimes in smaller or even in bigger communities.
So for people with big dreams, whether your dream is to take water to the moon or to communities here on Earth, if you got to do technology, if you want to work with federal government, if you want to get invested, there are people who want to help you and want to support you in accomplishing your dreams. And so we're excited to have amazing folks like yourself at WaterPitch to really support and build this water startup community, that we have multiple investors and funders that are all getting to know each other so that they can refer you to the right person as well. And so it's really, it's a beautiful, beautiful experience. And again, we're excited to have you come to WaterPitch.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. And I'm looking forward to not only coming to Water Pitch, but also becoming an integral part, with Dr. Cat and the Water Citizens.